Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com. This is my son Ben, and today we have our last regions tasting.
Yes, we finished all the regions of Scotland, or at least the important ones. We skipped one region because we didn't have enough whiskies for that, and that was the Campbelltown region. Today we're looking at the Speyside region, and for the Speysiders we have an assortment of Speysiders, and we're really proud of that assortment because it has a little bit of everything in the Speyside. We have the Benromach as a lightly peated whiskey. Then we have the Mortlach, which is not triple distilled, not double distilled, something in between with a warm top. So you have on the one side a very easy triple distilled, nice, soft, sweet, warm, mild whiskey. On the other side with the warm tops, it has a bit more spiciness to it. Then we have a wonderfully 100% sherry cask maturation with the Chando. And in the end, the Glenmori, the oldest one in the bunch, with 15 years. Also a very nice mixture between bourbon and sherry cask. Very sweet for the very end.
Yeah, I found it very difficult to build out of that a sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And, probably I didn't make it completely right, because I started with the Benromach 10 years, which has a little bit of smoke, as you said. Then the Mortlach, this is triple or 2.81 times distilled, so it's a mixture between 2 distillations and 3 distillations, and this leads to a softer. Then the Chando as a 100% sherry cask matured whiskey, moved from 10 years to 12 years. This is more hefty or heftier, and Glenmori as the oldest one in the end. So yeah, we had it an hour ago, and today, or with this knowledge, I would have changed the sequence a little bit. But we're in for that, and
I think the sequence is not perfect, but it's also not bad.
It's all from the Speyside, so they're not that difficult.
Yeah,
so different.
It's not a clear-cut sequence. You can argue a lot about, this one is spicy, and it always depends on your personal flavor profile. I would have chosen a different sequence, but that's my flavor profile. But now let's find out where the Speyside is. We go back to Scotland, and we've seen all the other regions. We've seen the lowlands in the first, then we had Isla, we had the highlands. Last time we had the islands, which says here Inseln, which is German. And now we have the Speyside, which is that small brown in between the highlands. The Speyside belongs to the highlands. So there are distilleries that consider themselves highland distilleries, even though they are in the Speyside. But yeah, they're also in the highlands, as the Speyside is a sub-region of the highlands. Here we see a little bit closer the definition of the Speyside. And you said it's from the water. Speyside is named after the Spey, and because of the water, you see that triangular shape there. That's because that's where the river comes and splits up. Or?
So it's the water divides on top of the mountains, which water runs to the Spey, and this is called, everything there is called the Speyside, and on the top of the mountains to the other side, it runs to this what's the Leven or whatever this streams or rivers there are. I think there are a few whiskey distilleries which call themselves Speyside, which aren't in the real geographical region.
Yeah, the Speyside became a bit bigger than it was. Yeah, there are rumors about that. I didn't include that in my thing, but yes, there is something about that.
And there is a distillery in the Speyside which called itself a Highland distillery.
Yeah.
It's Glenfarclas,
yeah.
So they omit the word Speyside.
But there are tons of distilleries in the Speyside, and by tons I mean about 60. And there are really big names in there: Aberlour, Macallan, Glengarn, Glenrothes, Craigenmore, Glenlivet. So there are really big names in there, and that's why the Speyside region is an actual region of its own, because of the high density of the distilleries. And let's have a look at the River Spey, where the name comes from. It's a beautiful river, and it runs in many curves, and there are birds flying, and there are really delicious fish swimming in the Spey. So
there's no water skiing.
There's no water skiing, yes, but there are delicious fish there, and the people. There are a lot of fisher going to the Spey, and it's a tourist magnet. Let's say it that way. Whiskey is a very big thing in Scotland, but tourism is already also a really big thing in Scotland. Not this year, but usually. So, good. Next up, we will talk about the Benromach Distillery, because that's the first one we're going to try. The Benromach Distillery you can always really see because of that high red chimney with a black top on it. And the house at the very bottom right, that's the filling store, and the specialty of Benromach is they really still do it with stencil and paint. So stencil means you have a round thingy that you put on the cask, and then you paint it, and there are holes in it, and it paints Benromach Distillery, and then you have a hole there for the year and the cask number, and then they actually paint it on the cask. They fill it by hand, and then they weigh it for the tax, and it goes off to the warehouse. The warehouse is on the very left side, and they've actually put solar roofs on the warehouses. In the middle is the distilling, and it's rather small, the Benromach Distillery, but a really nice distillery.
Yeah, Benromach is owned by Gordon MacPhail, the independent bottler. So it's their intention to keep it small and handy, and not to produce bulk whiskey for the blended whiskey industry. So everything of that distillery is for themselves. Yeah.
Good. Let's try it.
So we have these small samples. First, you put it into it, and I show the bottle.
I have a new camera for that.
Yeah, and this Benromach has now a different label. It's designed as it was before in the old times. So there's a way back to the roots of the distillery. The old ones were, from my point of view, a little bit more sophisticated. They were offset printed on the bottle. You can see a lot of the whiskey, and here the label is quite big, and
they're really old school. They're really, really old school. Not everybody's type, no.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the label? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
The new one is so yeah.
The thing is, the label, it depends on the whiskey. The label is cool, okay.
Hello from Jakarta. Well, very far in the night. Tsaki al Rasid.
Whiskey making is like alchemy. Yeah, it's an art.
Yeah, this is what I found strange in the sequence. This one has a little bit of smoke. There's a little smoke in it, and Benromach said to the beginning they like to have that style with a very hint of smoke, 5-7 ppm, just to have the remembrance of smoke in it as it was in former times. And this is definitely smellable, but it's not that intense that you can't smell the other tastes of. There's sherry in it, there's fruitiness, there's a little nuttiness from sherry casks, little spiciness, but as well fruitiness like apples. Yeah.
It has a whiff of smoke in there, a little cloud of smoke, combined with some fruitiness. If it's fresh fruitiness or if it's berries, dark fruitiness, more berries and fresh fruitiness combined. Yeah, it's nice. It's a well-rounded, lightly peated whiskey.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Not that intense as I thought of in the beginning. Little berries in it, fruity, creamy, sherry. But after that, spiciness, oakiness, middle to long aftertaste. And this one has 40% or 43? It's 43. It's priced below 40 wherever you live, and the smoke covers my mouth now.
Yeah,
A bit.
it's a little bit stronger now. It feels a little bit stronger in the taste. It's not dominant, but you feel a little bit of sherry, but mostly fresh influence. There was a question: is there sherry finish or sherry influence? It's 20% sherry cask, and the rest is, I think, ex-bourbon cask or first fill, second fill. I don't know. It doesn't say. Ex-bourbon casks and 20% sherry casks. So it's a wonderful, light, slightly sherry influenced, light to medium smoky whiskey. I like it.
Yeah. And having the smoky one first, so I do not take the second sip.
Yeah.
That's not because the whiskey is bad, but I do not like to cover my mouth and my tongue with all that smoke.
There's some water over there in the cupboard. There was one guy saying there was a bit of a discussion going on about is it an art or is it just chemistry plus time? It's chemistry, yes. Chemistry plays a big part. You have to know your chemistry to make whiskey, but also it's a little bit biology with all the yeast going on, and the timing of the yeast and the fermentation and the sugar levels and the malties, the malts is very important. And to make that right, you have to try a lot, and you have to know your biology. So it's a little bit more than chemistry.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit more. All that what you say is right, is true, and there's an artisanal work in it. But there is a part where the taste is transformed with the catalytic conversion of the copper in the stills.
That's the chemistry part.
No, that's magic.
Ah, that's magic.
So you can't tell how it works. You know afterwards it works, but you can't say, well, put a meter or 3 feet more pipe in it, and then the taste will be better.
Yeah.
You can't tell that. So
yeah, the thing is, this biochemistry that you have to do and all the trying, the artisan work, that's the beginning. And if you have it, then it's just reproducing it. A lot of quality control. A lot of quality control. So, but let's go back to the Speyside. We're here to talk about the Speyside. There is even a sub-region of the Speyside, and that region is called Duff Town. Yeah, it's a town. And it really looks like the most typical British town. And yeah, it is a most
Scottish town, not British.
Yes, but you find these towns are in England as well with these bricks. And it's a very British and even Scottish town. And they all drive on the left, as you can see. And they all have their chimneys in the center. And they all have these old stone buildings. And yeah, Duff Town is defined by, you have that saying?
Yeah, Rome was built on 7 hills and Duff Town was built on 7 stills. So it's the hidden capital of whiskey production in Scotland.
Yeah, but today there are only 6 distilleries that are active in Duff Town. Balvenie, Mortlach, Duff Town Distillery, Kinninvie, Glendullen and Glenfiddich.
But there had been the Parkmore Distillery, which is now only a storage warehousing facility. And there had been the Convalmore Distillery, close to Balvenie. And the Kinninvie is a new one.
Yeah.
So the tale was, so 2 more and 1 less makes 7. And then it's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the name of the town hadn't been always Duff Town.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Mortlach. This was an old monastery.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, from that, the distillery got its name.
Mm-hmm. They're talking about British or Scottish. Yes, it looks British, but when you come to the town center, you realize it's really, really Scottish because there is the big clock tower. It's a very famous landmark of Duff Town, the big clock tower, and it has a very big Scottish flag on top. So that's why you know you're in Scotland. So, let's have a look at the Mortlach distillery. Mortlach is one of these distilleries that is not open to the public, especially not this year. And if you want to see the inside of this distillery, there is a distillery video on our channel. You enter it from the right. There is a crosswalk there, and inside that building over the crosswalk is a big tasting room for special guests and a bit of a workers room and a bit of a administration. And if you go down the hall, then you have, I think, the malt mill is in the old kiln building, and the mash tun is on the other side. So on the other side of the pagoda roof is the mash tun and also fermentation. And in the long building on the left, just before the warehouse in dark gray on the back, that long building, that's the still house, and it's very, very high. You don't realize from that picture, but the ground where the car stands on the very, very far left side is very low. So that building is really high, and that has these big stills in them. They have a row of big stills. I think it's 6 big stills in a row.
Yeah, and one is not that big. It's
the
called
last one is very small.
The wee witchy.
Yeah.
And the process in these stills is very different and complicated. So there is a part which goes only double distilled out to the vats, and a part of that is triple distilled. And all stills, I think, are different, or 2 wash stills might be the same. Not quite sure. I don't remember that. And the mixture results in a 2.81 mixture between, so 2 times and 3 times more, 3 times than 2 times.
Yeah. And just behind that long, tall building on the left are the warm tubs. And they are the ones that give less catalytic reactions to the malt. And that's why the malt has a bit of a more spicy character. And so triple distillation makes it mild. The 2.81 distillation, not triple, 2.81 distillation is what they calculate. And the warm tubs give it more of a spicy character. So let's see which character is going to dominate.
So we do not have a miniature of that. And these 2.1 distilled is put here. Probably
2.81.
2.81 is listed there below the wee witchy, and below that is a 2.81.
I think we need to go a bit to the front.
Yeah, now we see it.
Good.
Yeah, that's a heavy bottle, thick glass bottom. So this one is light, or lighter, because it has no smoke in it. And after that, more oakiness. sandalwood, spiciness coming up, toffee, and a little berry fruit. Yeah. So it's not that smooth. So it can't cope up with the Benromach 10 years.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, nice conflict between smoothness and spiciness. So you realize, yeah, it's a rougher Highland malt with a few spices in there. I have a little bit of a cinnamon going on. Then you have a little bit of sweetness going on. So it's a little bit of a, like one of these cinnamon buns that you, I don't know where you get them, but I get them at the bakery. Yeah, at the bakery. And it's a cinnamon roll. Yeah, that's what they call them. It's very, very nice and pleasant, lightly spicy. This time the spiciness is not dominating. Yeah. What's the opposite of dominant?
Not dominant.
Submersive.
Smooth.
Smooth.
Gentle.
Someone has it in his glass. Grapefruit and Christmas toffee. You have grapefruit? Seriously?
Cheers. Probably we then have grapefruit as well.
Cheers.
So this is 43.4, priced around 40. So Mortlach is a little bit more expensive, and it's gentle in my mouth. Little sweetness, little spiciness. Sugary, and a little bit of tobacco, not burnt tobacco, but fermented tobacco in a tin.
The flavor in my mouth is, yeah, that has that conflict in perfection there. The feeling is very smooth, a little bit creamy even, but the flavors are from spiciness that you expect from wood to a little bit of a cinnamon taste to a little bit of a peppery note, even a little bit of leather going on with probably from the wood and the age. And it's a wonderfully nuanced whiskey.
Now I'll get ribeye steak. Probably your wife is ready with this steak.
Yeah, Mortlach might go handy with the steak. Maybe not too much pepper on the steak, but
with the second dram, I'm going more with that.
yeah, the spiciness
It's building
builds up.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So
Next one.
let's continue with the Speyside. And the Speyside is also famous for its casks and the use of sherry casks. Here we can see two sherry casks with glass tops and glass bottoms, so you can see through it, and it should show you how the level of whiskey is lowering due to the evaporation and the angel's share in the maturation period. But we have a look inside to see the color, and you see a definite red tone in there, and that comes because there is still some sherry stored in the walls of the cask, and some distilleries are said to don't wash out their casks properly, so there might be even a bit of sherry left in there. So that's
Those are called wet casks.
wet casks. Yeah, they're a bit wet. So, and the sherry influences the whiskey gently or nicely. It's not that dominant that we have that sherry taste fully, because if you've ever tried sherry, it's a very sweet stuff. But also, not all sherries are sweet. The most common sherry, I would say, is the Oloroso. It's actually, from definition-wise, it's not... oh, thank you.
Sergey.
And so it's not a sweet sherry, the Oloroso, but it's a very fruity and nutty sherry. The sweet sherry is called PX, Pedro Ximénez, also Spanish sherry, which is not fermented to the very end, and that means there is residual sugar there and a very, very sweet sherry. So that's a dessert wine, sweet wine. That's where we know these wines. Then we also have Fino and Amontillado. They're a bit less well known. They're not that often used for whiskey maturation. So the brunt of the whiskey maturation is from Oloroso and also from Pedro Ximénez. And now we come to a distillery that matures solely in sherry casks, and that is Tamdhu. And you might remember that picture from the beginning. In the very back, you see the Spey. Yeah, the Tamdhu distillery is lying right next to the River Spey, and it's a very beautiful distillery. Unfortunately, not open to the public. I've talked to their distillery manager, Sandy, and I told him, distillery looks nice. I've been to open distilleries that have been really, much worse than that. But he wasn't quite satisfied with, they want to build it up, and at some point they will open the distillery to the public. If you want to have a look inside right now, you can go to our YouTube channel or to on Whisky.com on the Whisky database in the distilleries, and you will find the distillery video, and I'll take you through everything in the distillery.
But you haven't seen these Saladin bins.
Yeah, you see there is a little bit of a construction site going on. That's where they deconstructed the Saladin boxes.
Yeah, Saladin boxes was a different way of malting barley. They were concrete tanks. They contained a meter thick or 3 feet thick. There are pictures in the Whisky database on Whisky.com where you can see that, and they were mixed with machines through and through, and afterwards it was pumped out by thick pipes, a lot of manual labor afterwards, but the maturation process, the malting process was a lot more automated than the malting floors were. So this was the next step to the malting floors, which helped them produce cheaper malts. But today those big malting drums, they are even cheaper in producing malt than the Saladin boxes, and so they said we stop with that.
Mm-hmm. So that is Tamdhu for you, and let's have a try.
Yeah.
So Chando is now a 12-year-old?
They changed from 10 to 12 years. Mm-hmm. And here you see these Victorian age style bottle, which is, completely different than every other bottle you see in the whiskey industry. So,
can I have your glass? I can show you the glass. We have a cool new glass, which is unfortunately not available worldwide, where we've put a winter scenery on there with a Highland distillery, and also the color of the Tamdhu is without coloring, so that's natural color.
Yeah. I'm sitting a little bit low. You're not that much taller than I am. Wow. That's a lot of sherry in it. Yeah.
All of it is sherry.
And in the back now, it's with the second dram, I found more of these orange juice, orange character, fresh oakiness, a little bit of cinnamon. So this is a Christmas whiskey. Definitely. Yeah. Complex, full. It's priced a little bit above 40. It's 43% ABV. Yeah.
It's a wonderfully nice, elegant, totally on the sherry side whiskey. So there is a lot of fruitiness going on with oranges, with raisins, with berries. There's everything. It's fruits, fresh fruits, dried fruits, and berries. It's
George
a
Hansen
wonderful
says
mix.
bitter orange. I think he tasted already. Thank you
Could be in
Fac
the
M.
smell as well.
for loving our channel. So,
Oh, cheers.
There's this fruity note in it, and then accompanied by the oakiness showing up, berry fruits, orange juice, sherry, of course, lots of sherry. Mouthful, mouth-watering, really full. The aftertaste, this little spiciness, not bitterness, little spiciness going through with the oakiness.
What you have in the smell, you have in the flavor. It's a wonderful mixture between all kinds of fruit, and it's very complex and has a lot of fruit in it. So I think this is a very, very good whiskey because it's so friendly and nice with the fruitiness and a little bit of sweetness and gentleness that you could give it to a beginner. But also it's so complex and has so many different kind of fruitiness that it would also be interesting for an expert. So I have to say, perfect Christmas gift. For someone you don't know how deep he's into whiskey.
So Chando is, as Benromach, owned by an independent bottler. So they're going for higher quality. They're going for 100% sherry casks. So Chando, after being sold, you see still ex-bourbon casks over there because they produced and probably still produce for a big blend name.
Yeah, they do. They do. I've talked to them. There you can have independent bottlings from Chando as well, but as they are pretty successful, they are low on stock. So if you don't have a contract with them, hard to get in.
But they were able to increase the age from 10 to 12.
Yeah, they really focused on the Chando, so that's why they didn't bring in more and shipping out in bulk.
But the cask strength, which came out, is without an age statement, I think.
Yeah, they really focused on they can't do anything, probably. Everything. Good. So we've seen what a sherry cask can do. And the Chando distillery wants to, I'm not quite sure, you have to watch the distillery video. They want to go to first fill and or only Oloroso sherry casks. But there still are PX casks coming out with Chando, especially the older ones.
Wow, Martin Ricosta. Well, in Argentina, that whiskey is worth about $200.
Oh, okay. I think we need to go into exporting. Okay. Sherry casks are not the only casks used in the Speyside for whiskey maturation. Here we see 3 casks that are not sherry casks, but wine casks. We have Burgundy casks, and then on the right we have a Sauterne cask, on the left is a Bordeaux casks. And yeah, these are they all French wines? Probably isn't, are they? I'm not so.
Burgundy is at the River Rhone.
It's Germany, right?
No, it's France.
Okay, then it's all
And
France.
Bordeaux and Sauterne, they are at the Gironde, on the southwest of France. So they are brothers or sisters.
And now this is from Glenmori, our next distillery. and they are now owned by a French company. So they have really good connections now to get these casks.
So they are increasing quality as well by having better casks now, as they are French wine producers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of fruitiness coming in through Barolo Amarone casks with the dried fruits. Then you have Bordeaux with very dark fruits. And you can even have white wine casks, Chardonnay, Muscatel, Sauternes, more lighter, more fruity. Some even give a bit of a citrus note in there. And let's have a look. There is not just sherry in the fortified wines, but you can also have different fortified wines like Madeira and Masala. In the middle is a Madeira cask. On the right we have a Masala cask, and on the very left we have a port cask, which is probably a rebuild. So it's probably a hogshead or something strange of a port cask, because usually you have a port pipe, which is a very big and very long cask with 500 to 600 liters capacity. So this is probably 200, 220, 250, something like that. These are all the casks that are traditionally used for maturing whiskey. They have pretty much been legal all the time. Recently, they have changed a bit of the legislation, and now you are allowed to store in tequila, mezcal, calvados, cachaca, and also
herring.
No, I don't think that, and also ale casks. And here on the left, you see an ale cask at the Glenmori Distillery. So they are trying out something new. But on the right, you see an pretty much illegal cask. It's illegal to actually fill it into a bottle and call it Scotch. So they did a bit of a gamble and filled something into an ale cask and something in a cider cask. Cider has not been made legal for maturing Scotch whiskey yet. Or maybe they would never do it. Also, you're not allowed to mature in gin casks, and also you're not allowed in any stone fruit matured wine. No, stone fruit produced matured wine? I don't know. So wine produced from stone fruit. I can really feel why you don't want to have it with gin.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a high spiciness within the distillate, and that would probably give a very, very strange feeling to the Scotch.
Yeah. And the cider, probably a lot of sourness in it.
That could be nice. Depends on what cider you use, but probably the Scottish Malt Whisky Association don't want everybody to mess around that badly.
So there is a as well, chestnut is not allowed in Scotland, but it's allowed in Europe as a whole.
Okay, and this was all the casks came from the Glenmori Bernara distillery, and here we see the distillery. And what you don't see is that when you turn left, from that height you can easily see the sea, so it's very close to the sea. And also you can see there is a river going past the distillery just below us, and that river overflows regularly.
Yeah, but they now have a new dam, the green one you see on the right now.
They built a very fresh new dam, because in, 2013?
I think, yeah.
They had a huge flood, and the distillery, they told me the story, they were just going around and everything was waist deep into water, and you would see casks just floating from left to right, and that's a horror situation for a distillery manager. And in that time, you take everyone out of all the offices, and everybody just works to get the situation under control. So and at the very top left, there's the town of Elgin, and also there is the visitor center when you come in, and also the still house, and all the buildings to the right you see, and all the buildings to the back are warehouses. So there's a lot of stock at the Glenmori distillery, and they are producing a lot of whiskey. And they are now getting a bit more into different casks in a bit more of a premium market more.
Yeah, the the distillery was sold, and the new company, they try to increase quality. So in the past there had been no age and 8 years old for the supermarkets, really cheap, and now they let them mature a little bit longer, having more quality, and therefore they have more warehouses. Those 9 shiny new roofs on the right, as well as the 4 bigger warehouses in the back, they are for new casks. And I think the right ones, they look a little bit wrecked and demolished in between those.
Oh yeah, they look really messed up.
Yeah, they will have some new over there in the upcoming years.
Maybe they've already done that. I think these pictures are from 2019, or 18, 19. Not quite sure. I think it's 19, beginning 19. Okay, let's have a try. And now we come to the Glenmori 15.
You're pouring the glasses, and I'm showing the bottle. So here it is. Glenmori 15. So this one is close to 40, just has 40% ABV, so it's a little bit more for the mass market, and with a price below 40 for a 15-year-old, it's not that expensive. So they still try to keep up with the old customers who know the name. Friendly. Toffee, sherry, and a little bit of an aromatic undertone. Yeah. Gentle. Really good. Mm-hmm.
Nice. It's a wonderful, interesting, nice, sherry. How do you call it? Major sherry influence whiskey. So you realize, okay, there's a little bit of a distillery character with honey and a little bit of a bourbon cask influence, but a lot of sherry, a lot of fruitiness, a lot of toffee, dark sherry notes, but they're not as complex as with the Tamdu, but also just gently round, nice, smooth sherry notes.
So there was Anui M. I missed it. What finish are you drinking? No, it's not a finish. We didn't say that. So it's a mixture of ex-bourbon and ex-sherry casks. There are finishings of Glenmori out on the market, a lot of them. Yeah, but this one not.
Okay, so cheers.
Cheers. Right there. Mm. Sweet and full, and then moving over to light chocolate. In the aftertaste, a little bit dry, and there's a winey component in it. Feels a little bit like a wine, like grapes. Yeah.
The nose was still a little bit influenced with the bourbon character. If I'd have that in a blind tasting, I would probably say it's a purely sherry cask matured whiskey. So the sherry is very dominant in the flavor. A little bit of a sweet honey note from the distillery character, but no citrus freshness from the bourbon cask or distinct vanilla or caramel. A little bit of a caramel toffee note in there, but the main thing is the beautiful round fruitiness from the sherry, and not overly sweet. It is sweet, but not overly sweet.
Yeah.
today is a really good selection of whiskey. We have a really good selection of whiskey here. So
Dangerously sipping.
yeah. These are whiskeys that you can have in the evening, and you can have a nice evening with a friend, and you can have a few too many of them easily because they are just so demanding. Or so you're already starting to rank them.
Oh, yeah.
I've tried to remember them, and I have to say I'm maybe changing a little bit from what I've had before.
Yeah. So before I had 3 as the best, 4, 1, 2, and now I have 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. I'm changing it a little bit to
which is not fair to the Benromach, because the Benromach is the only one which shows a little bit of peatiness. So it's not fair to rank it in between them because it's so different.
Yeah, it's really the Benromach in the second tasting was much better than in the first tasting. Don't know why. So it's not a whiskey you should enjoy first. So it should be way in the back. But again, for me, the best one was still Tamdhu. Tamdhu is just a nice thing. This time, I'm going with Glenmori and Benromach and then Mortlach. And strangely, I had Mortlach nearly at first place in the first tasting. Now it came in fourth. They're all really, really good. So none of these whiskeys deserves to be last place. So what do the people have? They have 3, 4, 2, 1, like I did. 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1. Ah, okay. A lot of people will like the Mortlach here.
Have you had Tamdhu 15? Yes, we had. It's on the channel, on Whisky.com.
It's fantastic.
In the Whisky database, you will find that video as well at the listing. And all of them are not that mainstream from the Speyside. They are not in the first row. They are all a little bit in the back, and all are looking to increase their quality. All had a lot of work going into the distillery. As Benromach reconstructed the distillery, Mortlach changed the production to have this new one. Not the production, changed their complete bottlings to have the new one. Tamdhu increased from 10 to 12 years. Glenmori changed a lot to go out from the supermarkets into the main market. So they all are working hard to increase quality. And with others, you see they are selling millions and millions, and they just want to keep up the pace. And these ones are...
They are kind of gems or rising stars of the industry. Especially, I think Mortlach. Mortlach is coming from a blend distillery with no own distillery bottling, and now they came out with...
we have to be careful. Mortlach, they had at first the 0.5 liter bottles, and they were a little bit overpriced by a factor of 2 to 4, especially for the 25. And now they have more reasonable priced bottles from the 12-year-old starting with. But this 12-year-old is already above 40, so this is an expensive 12-year-old.
Yeah, they're going in really premium, especially with the price.
Yeah.
But the stuff is good. That was my point. The price is another thing to talk about with Mortlach, as it comes from a big company of Diageo. Tamdhu is one of the very good distilleries, also coming from the blend industry.
Yeah, but moving because they were bought by an independent bottler.
Moving fast into the single malt market. Benromach, also a small distillery, but always been a little bit small and rising.
Yeah, owned by an independent bottler, Gordon MacPhail, the independent bottler, Gordon MacPhail.
And Glenmori now owned by the French, and they really want to get into that these casks, so they really
They have the cask. All others have to pay
they
for
have,
it.
They have the cask, and they really want to go Glenmori into the cask paradise. And yeah, it's interesting how they will go, but they all have so much potential. Good.
So we're coming to a close.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of announcement. The next live streams will be the beginners tasting and the advanced tasting. I'm not sure how we called that in English actually. The beginners tasting will be on the 26th of December at 20:30 on Whisky.com/live, and the advanced will be on the 27th. So you can find all the bottles we're going to try on the Whisky.com/live and have a tasting with us. And we will introduce everybody who comes to that stream on how to taste whiskey and what the hobby whiskey is really all about. A bit about a background of production, a bit faster than I usually do it here in the more in-depth videos. And we're gonna go with what do you add to your whiskey? Your water, ice cubes, and or Coke. We all know the answer. And how to choose the right glass and other beginner stuff, and what kind of whiskeys there are, and how you do the Reihenfolge sequence. Yeah. This time was really difficult to put out the sequence, and from the knowledge we have right now, we would probably do it differently. Yeah.
So don't forget, give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
So that our video is promoted by YouTube. And
Okay, so that was it then.
Have a nice holiday.
Oh yeah,
because we are meeting after Christmas next time, and
in live you can always watch the videos in between, right? So, but that was it. Thank you very much for watching. Have a look at Whisky.com/live. There will be the next live tastings all written down there. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.